Hello guys and welcome to Cyber Diaries episode number 30, where we're looking at week starting 3rd of February, where we peek behind the curtain, what it entails to be a CISO and what's my week looking like. I think first of all I want you guys to talk to you about a couple of things which I'm planning to do this week. First and foremost, I've just recently, I know I'm always trying to develop and further read and apply various ideas and initiatives that I pick up from reading books. So the latest book I've been reading was essentially 4 disciplines of execution and how to build essentially accountable team and drive goals. I think cybersecurity has a lot of lessons that we need to learn from that book, because the problems that we normally face in our industry is usually driven by firefighting, by constantly looking at tools output and essentially trying to fix cybersecurity like that. I think the problems are built from that is because we continuously looking at tool outputs and then fixing various problems and issues. And I think that's not sustainable. If you want to really achieve continuous improvement and progress through your goals, I think we need to do better than that. I think we need to think about how we can improve those goals, how we can achieve things better. And I think the only way we can achieve that is what they call in the book is moving away from the whirlwind that we're normally stuck in, and actually building a widely important goal for our teams that's measurable and achievable. And I think sometimes the problem is, if we look at tools, we have arbitrary security scores in them built in that it's highly unlikely to follow those rules and be able to actually measure weekly, monthly how our team is progressing towards those goals. So what I want to do, and I want to experiment with my team, is actually to think about one wildly important goal to specific team members and how we can make it measurable. And I think we can do trial and error in various aspects in here. But I was thinking things like, for example, now if we look at our cloud security posture, you normally have a security score where it shows where you are at. The problem is, and the way normally we tackle those things, is that we look at the score, we look at the tools, recommendations, outputs, and then we just create whether it's lists, tasks. But because this posture is constantly changing, it's very hard to determine where we're going to arrive at the end result, how we can measure effectively that we are getting closer towards our goal. And I think one of the ways to achieve that in my mind is we need to move towards proactive security in the cloud. Now you can achieve that, I think the only way is building robust security standards which can be codified. So the way you can achieve that is with whether applying policies in your infrastructure as code pipelines or leveraging native tools, like for example Azure has Azure Policy, where you can define, for example, Azure Security Benchmark version 3 has around 200 policies that you can define what's the path in your success towards a cloud journey. So instead of, for example, somebody deploying a virtual machine with whole open firewall and then you just need to fix it, now why don't we deploy a policy that says we're not allowing in our organization to build virtual machines that have open firewalls? So we essentially getting to the level of productivity that will prevent people from building insecure virtual machines in the first place. So I think just relaying that to 4 sort of dimensions of execution and how we can leverage that. We can, for example, build an initiative that our wildly important goal is to improve our cloud security posture. Now, the way we achieve that is, say, for example, we have 200 policies that we're going to deploy. So we're going to start by measuring or deploying those policies in audit mode. And the goal is and you always have to put a goal with a target date. So say our goal is to make those 200 policies enforceable by December 31st, and then you can measure compliance towards that. So you start with enforcing one policy, two, and as you can see, actually teams, while working and deploying those policies, they can see measurable results first of all, and they can make themselves accountable, and they can see how they're moving the needle towards their target. Now the goal is to spread that initiative and apply across various teams and make it expand across, whether it's SecOps, whether it's application security teams, whether it's helping infrastructure teams and the rest of the business. So I think this is the very credible way to move the target towards the where you're willing to go. Because the problem is, I think, with firefighting and the so-called whirlwind, it's always going to be there. But the goal is to push forward and achieve measurable goals and outcomes faster. Second, probably biggest task of the week is I am preparing for a keynote presentation that I have at the end of the month with a topic that I'm presenting to my fellow peers and cybersecurity leaders. We're talking about that CISO is not a Swiss Army knife. You need to build a balanced team in order to achieve your cybersecurity goals. I just wanted to explore a few, ideas in the topic and things like, there's been a number of job descriptions, there's a number of job specs that's, been out there that seems like organizations don't understand why and how they need CISO. I think, first of all, if you're an organization and you think you need a CISO because of an audit, outcome, B, it's because you think you're growing and, you want to get the first CISO. But if you're not going to support the CISO with the budget and the team around him, they're going to struggle to achieve meaningful goals. So I just wanted to explore in my keynote about, some of the hands-on CISO job descriptions, some of the crazy CISO salaries that have been out there. I talk a bit about how CISOs can leverage things like cybersecurity charter to get accountability from leadership team, how to gain support and understanding of where the accountabilities of that cybersecurity program lie. I wanted to talk about the shift in culture that cybersecurity needs in order to deliver results, in order to achieve meaningful outcomes. I wanted to talk about how to build and start DevSecOps movement. I wanted to talk and compare about awareness training, talk a bit about how we treat our employees, and talk a bit about what's the difference between a carrot and a stick. And what do I mean by that is, we often, when we teach our teams or when we do any generic end user awareness training programs, we tend to lean towards punishing people who click phishing links, who by mistake download malware and things like that. I think we need to emphasize the right behaviors, but instead of punishing the wrong ones, we reward the good ones. And I think that's how we can create a culture of collaboration and support across teams. Because I think once you start punishing, phishing clicks and things like that, you usually create fear amongst teams, and you're never going to be in a position where cybersecurity department is being feared by other business units, because it's going to stifle collaboration, it's going to stifle, improvements in your program and support across the other business units. So I think you need to think about that. So I'm kind of finalizing my slides and looking at how I can present and showcase some of the learnings that I have made in my program, but also what I have learned from books and all the other peers that I've met across the industry that I think could be really useful. I like public speaking, and I think sometimes it's important to showcase your ideas, showcase what we've been through, and just, hopefully help our peers. Now, if we look and dive into our upcoming week, as always, I kind of mentioned to you guys before, Mondays is always starting with our weekly sync. So all of the week's meeting, where we're going to review and look at what have we achieved last week, what's the most important goals ahead. As I mentioned, I'm looking to explore a bit with this direction of sort of execution. So I'm just going to bounce some ideas. I think the key point what I want to achieve in this meeting as well is that I think sometimes we as leaders, we struggle to get our teams to do things or gain accountability, is because if we are acting as a general and giving out orders, that usually limits the success of your program. I think the key goal in order to get accountability is teams have to come up with their own ideas. Your goal as a leader is to guide your teams to achieve or to arrive essentially at the ideas that you think going to be helpful for your team. So that's how we start. Then we're going to go into operational meetings. We're doing some work with Zendesk implementation in our organization, and we're going to track various operational procedures through Zendesk. So again, it's a good way to get teams together to understand how we can operationalize Zendesk, how we can leverage it to the best ability, how we can create automation, because I think that's one problem where normally we as teams sometimes struggle, is that whenever we create manual tasks, again, it adds to what I mentioned before. It adds to firefighting, it adds to whirlwind. So how we can make it easier, how we can make it easier, whether it's user onboarding, whether it's change management, whether it's access reviews and things like that, how we can leverage the tool to its abilities across teams. As I mentioned before, we have now kind of a weekly cadence. We are implementing a new application security tool that's going to greatly increase our security posture across various aspects, from static code analysis to dynamic code analysis to software composition analysis, as well as infrastructure as code scanning. So we're running a project of implementation. So we have again a working meeting to making sure that we are getting ahead in implementation. I think that it's first part of implementation is actually, I think, is to gain visibility and improve the visibility into our code posture, and then start building proactive security measures, how we're going to improve that. Then I have usually on Mondays as well, every other Monday I have a leadership meeting with senior leadership of the organizations, where we normally appraise of various projects that we work in, and essentially just talk through how are we handling various initiatives. It's essentially a chance for them to understand what we work in for them. Meetings normally bring various questions. Obviously senior executives hear various news and read stuff around what's happening around the globe. So just making sure that we are aligning our security efforts to the business goals, and making sure that whether they heard anything on the news, whether they need to be worried or not. So it's a good session to showcase essentially the team's progress and showcase the team's recent wins. And then we ending the Monday again with 2 meetings. So we have the daily production meetings again, just to review any issues over the weekend on our platforms, to discuss and bring up any operational issues. Essentially, this is just purely operational meeting about how the product and our platforms is performing, and to discuss potential issues essentially as that. And then we round up Monday with our change board, where I mentioned before, so we just essentially running through upcoming changes. Obviously the change board is now expanding, as I mentioned before to you guys. So we have obviously European operations, we have US operations and Australian operations. So we start running pretty much 3 change boards simultaneously, just to get approvals about things that's is going to come in the various platform guys, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's code, whether it's feature development and things like that, just to so everyone's are aware of what's coming and we can address risk. I think the key point is addressing the risk in those changes and making sure that we are not biting too much that we can chew and then create operational problems. So it's always a helpful meeting in that sense. Now if we move into Tuesday, I think you guys have mentioned, so last couple of weeks we've been running through a big 4 IT audit. So I've worked with my teams to provide evidence for security questions and security remarks that came out of the IT audit. So we just have a follow-up meeting just to review our evidence, to provide any answers to their questions, essentially to walk through the procedures and essentially help them understand our security controls and how we measure those security controls. So make sure that they can complete their audit findings and provide if there is any reasonable recommendations for us to address in the near future. Then later on in Tuesday, I have a weekly touch point with our DevOps teams and security catch-up. Again, this is just kind of walking through initiatives, especially with DevOps teams involved who are obviously tasked with building our infrastructure. So we have a lot of touch points together in improving our infrastructure security and just discussing any new initiatives that we work in. Especially, we have a number of projects that we're building, whether it's new platforms, whether new initiatives. Kind of touched with you guys before that we are, heavily involved in AI work and things like that. So just making sure that we are understanding what's needed from security perspective to DevOps and then vice versa. So making sure that we can work together and collaborate. I think sometimes, in businesses, the problems usually occur when team is, just by itself solving problems and then asking at the last minute, oh, we need a security sign off. Can you just sign it off? But if we were not involved from the get-go, usually things are being missed. So I think that's the more touch points and collaboration you have from the get-go, the better results can be achieved. And then I'm rounding off Tuesday meeting with Security Sisters. So I've got approached with a community called Security Sisters just to walk through of my experience, what I've been doing, and just see if I can help and essentially collaborate in any way. So that's the meeting for Tuesday. I'm always interested to hear, from various communities how they're operating, what they're doing, what's the initiatives on their horizon, and how we can potentially help and talk about that. Then Wednesday morning, I have catch up with my Australian team just to, again, catch up and walk through what they've been working for. I got a governance, risk and compliance person in Australia, so just we're walking through initiatives, we're working about through any potential audits. We're doing a lot of process work and building out our processes estate from the policies. So obviously we done a lot of work previously to get towards ISO 27001 standard. I think now is just about how we mature that program and enhance and cover any gaps we might have had previously. So it's always interesting just to to get touch with people and see how they're doing. Obviously Australian teams are obviously on a different time zone, so sometimes it's really hard to get together and find the time that we can actually work together and find the time that we can actually meet. So we normally do that early on Wednesdays morning to get those things done. And then after that we move into our tech portfolio review meeting. So this is purely technical meeting where teams can present, where and what they have achieved over the last week or so. That's where normally we get to hear how tech teams are building our product, what enhancements are they working on, what they have achieved. We get to hear from different, initiatives, because we're working in a financial services organization. We're building various platforms, from loan management systems to our financial services platform itself, and then we have a number of projects in the pipeline that, bringing some exciting products for our clients. We're trying to help our telecoms partners to expand their reach and win more clients and preserve their customer loyalty. So there's a really exciting things in the pipeline, which I can't reveal all of them, but there's some really great stuff that we are building, and it's kind of really be exciting to be part of an organization that's really agile and on a kind of side of innovation, to present some really cool stuff to the industry, and making sure that obviously I am the one who makes sure that security is added from the get-go, and making sure that we can prevent any privacy concerns, any data breach concerns, and things like that, to make sure that our client data is safe with us. So it's real privilege to be part of this exciting growth, and see where the business is growing. I'm pretty much been here from day one. It's been 2.5 years. We grew from business. I've joined, I think, the company being employee number 26, and now we're over 200. So it's pretty much we're doubling the employee count every year. So it's really exciting to see how and where this shapes and how this grows. Then I have a meeting with our AI team. I think I've touched with you guys before, but in order to build AI, data governance is really important. So we are sort of building blocks in our data governance program, and then we're looking at a few tools of what we can leverage and what we can use in that scope. We're talking about information protection tools. We're talking about data loss prevention. We're talking about data classification. We're talking about recognizing PAI and building specific policies of how we're gonna protect personal identifiable information. So it's just essentially a first meeting to get and understand the scope of the project. I think how big the scope's going to expand and what we're going to achieve in this project. And essentially from there is just working backwards to deciding who's going to own the project, how the team's going to get involved in that, who's the key stakeholders is going to be, how much of a budget we need for that project. So it's really interesting. I think obviously stepping into that AI world, I think I've been talking to a lot of leaders. I think most of the people are kind of in two camps in that space. There's organizations that are really scared of AI because there are definitely privacy concerns, there is bias concerns, but I think I'm one of the ones that I'm really excited about it. I think as long as you are approaching it with security and risks in mind, and you address those important questions, I think you can get it right, and I think that can be tremendous success and can gain you a lot of impetus for growth and advancing your business forward. So really looking forward to that meeting. Then we are looking at another meeting with my application security team. We essentially done a lot of penetration tests for some of our products, and especially for some of the upcoming products that we're going to launch in the market in the very near future. So we're just looking about the outputs from pen tests. We're looking at what do we need to do and how we need to plan and work with development teams to address some of these issues. I think the key point is, and what's really reassuring, that nothing scary has been found. So I think it's just about looking at some minor issues that addressing the risks and allowing the teams to launch the product, and how we need to move in order plan the sprints ahead to make sure that everything's being fixed. And then Wednesday again we're running another daily production meeting. So these meetings are it's, even though it's called daily production meetings, but we're running them Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So it's again just to review anything potential. I think this is going to be crucial because we potentially on Tuesday running a new product launch. So Wednesday's production meeting potentially going to be a really crucial to see how the launch went, making sure that everything's running smoothly, and just reviewing things like that. And then as we move into Thursday, we're kind of running these, I kind of mentioned before, so we're running these solution design review meetings. So Thursday morning we run the Australian solution design meeting, and then Friday afternoon we run the European and US meeting. So Thursday morning starts with solution design review, just making sure and running through any solution designs that Australian teams is working, just to get everyone's feedback, essentially approval to move ahead, and look at through what they're essentially working, because we have, obviously, due to specific regulations and specific controls across globe, we have a bit of a difference the way we're designing solutions and products for our clients. So it's always interesting to hear from Australian team what they're working on, what's the latest and greatest, and just making sure that I provide input from security perspective, making sure that just in case we uncover any potential risks, how we're going to tackle them, where do we need to get ownership and potentially budget to mitigate specific risks. And then we further down in Thursday, we move into our SSO integration meeting. So we are running a number of projects across the company to bring most of the enterprise applications under SSO, because I think, we built a great identity access management platform. So I think in order to protect data within various applications, I think we need to leverage our identity store, and that's the only way to do it, is embedding all of those applications through SSO. So obviously we have a list of applications that we are running through those projects, providing owners, and then the way we run SSO, we obviously onboard the application under SSO, but then we can, on the back of the project, we can start running things like access review, making sure that identity and access management is done properly, making sure that all of these applications are under MFA, making sure that everyone has access, only the person who needs to be, it's least privileged controls and things like that. And then the big meeting on Thursday is our operations committee. So it's a monthly meeting again where we review all of the operational issues and operational sort of achievements over the last month. Just kind of a look back at the last month, look at operational KPIs, OKRs, and all of the other measures, essentially, and making sure that we are on top of things, making sure that everything's trending in the right direction. Is just essentially for every business unit to understand how business is operating, who is struggling, who needs help, and essentially how is business doing. It's important. Sometimes you can get lost in the firefighting and whirlwind within the business and not really understand what's happening outside of other business units if you're not continuously collaborating with them. So it's always great to have that sort of meeting where we can get together and essentially walk through how the business is doing, how every single business unit is operating, what they are working on, what they have achieved over the last month, and essentially celebrate everyone's wins. And then Thursday, normally we end with there's a few meetings. So we're running our fraud initiative improvements. So inside our financial services platform, we have built an amazing fraud identification capabilities, and it's becoming really a game changer in us selling the product. So we are continuously running and improving and getting together how we can improve those fraud services and essentially provide better access to more telecoms partners in our product offering. And then we're running through last two projects. So as I mentioned before, we kind of getting really close to launching a product in Spain. So it's the last project update for the for the Spanish product, and we are launching one other product in US. So again, there's weekly project review updates where we review the prominent risks. We're looking at how close we are to dev complete, how many other initiatives that need to be planned on top of that. I have my own security tasks that needs to be part of every product launch, so I can track how close we are to the completion, so I can plan my security reviews, whether it's a platform, whether it's penetration testing prior to the product launch, and things like that. So it allows me to be not only up to date, but to understand how it's going and what's happening, just to be appraised of how close we are to launching that initiative and how close we are to getting the product over the line. And then as we move into Friday, every other Friday, I kind of mentioned to you guys before, I had shoulder surgery, I had shoulder injuries, so I'm kind of, old age is breaking me apart. Even though I still try to be active and go to gym every week, but I go to physio on every Friday morning just to improve my shoulder, essentially mobility after surgery, and just to get rid of any niggling pains. I think I think preventative measures is always better than aftercare. But obviously, since already injury kind of happened and I had a surgery, I think just working towards that and making sure I'm as mobile as possible, and making sure I'm as healthy as possible. So making sure that any sort of niggles, just physio, I think really helps me to get rid of that. And then as we move into later on Friday, as I kind of touched earlier, so we had solution design review for Australia on Thursday, so we're running the same solution design review meeting for our European and US business. So again, same thing, just reviewing any potential solutions that European and US counterparts are working through, making sure that what's upcoming into the pipeline. We have some really exciting product plans this year, so it's just essentially loads of teams are working away and building exciting ideas. This is essentially the time that they are able to showcase their ideas and present in front of everyone, so everyone can see actually where the product is going. So it's really exciting. And then we kind of ending Friday on our architecture board review. We're doing a lot of work. Obviously, business has grown and matured a lot over the last 2.5 years since I've been here. So I think our architecture needs to keep up and move with the times. So I think it's we're doing a little few things about how we re-architect our platforms, our products. We're looking at a lot of cost-saving inductions. We're looking about things like reservation plans, cost-saving plans. I think some of these things can't be forgotten, but you need to align that to the business goals and business strategy. And I think it's an important lesson. I think I've touched and talked with you guys before, but working in a small startup business, whether it's cybersecurity or any other department, what I think to me is really exciting, you get to touch all kinds of different things. I'm heavily involved with an AI, I'm heavily involved with IT and architecture. You get to learn so many exciting different things and skills that you can take into any business. You get to touch things like that CIO might only touch. You get to work with people like CTO and product guys, developers. You get to really understand how product goes from idea to actually it's being serving our customers. So you get to learn a lot and you get to be involved, even though sometimes you wear a number of hats. But I think in depending where you are in your career, there are times when you want to learn and there are times when you want to earn. But if you can marry the two together, I think it's really exciting impetus for your career growth and projection. So if you ever guys come across the chance, I know everyone's chasing this whole FANG agenda and want to put one of the big names on their CV, but the problem is I think you're normally just a small number in one of those teams, and as recent history shows, anyone can be made redundant just like that because you are just a number in a team. So if you ever get a chance to work for an exciting startup, I think you should grasp it and really get to learn and experience that journey, because I think you're going to learn and improve your career a lot doing that. So that's how we round up another CISO week, where you guys get to peek behind the curtain and what it is and how do I work and what do being a CISO means. I hope you guys loved another episode. Please like, subscribe, share with your peers so everyone can learn. and progress. And if you got, guys, any ideas, please do not hesitate to comment, reach out on LinkedIn. If you would like to collaborate, and understand more, please reach out, guys. I don't bite, and stay safe out there, guys.